It's like the athlete already foreseeing the home run. Or many of us will be watching the Super Bowl this evening. And it's like the quarterback, there are two quarterbacks getting ready to play, and they're foreseeing themselves throwing the game-winning touchdown. Maybe it's one of the defensive players ready to make a play, and they are all envisioning themselves to be of use. No one who is going to step on the field today says that I want to be the one to drop the pass. I want to be the one to fumble the ball. I want to be the one to throw the interception. I want to miss the game-winning tackle. Me. None of us ever envision our lives like that. And God has this lump of clay before him. And he's molding it and shaping it into what he designs, because in it he foresees what that lump of clay could be. The perfection and the beauty. Timothy speaks of it and he says, in the house are not there many vessels, and of these vessels created many are made for honorable use, but some are made for dishonorable use. You would say God would make us for dishonorable use? God would do anything for his glory. Why? Isn't that egotistical? He's God. He deserves to be who he is because he is God and God alone. And as Jeremiah is watching him fumble with this, God speaks in his innermost soul and he says, you are that lump of clay. House of Israel, my people. You sitting here today, you are that lump of clay. Don't I have a right to do with you what I want to do? And coming from last week, where we were last week, with being not cast away. God, I don't want to disqualify myself. I don't want things and areas in me to affect my walk with you. How many of us have allowed things in our life to affect our walk with God? Well, Paul says, I don't want to be cast away. Well, now we come to this part. Lord, I'm not where I should be. How many of you ever felt that? That my life is broken right now. I need it fixed because the life that I have is not the life that I know I should have. That the purpose and the fulfillment and the joy that should be in my life, I'm not experiencing. That my life is losing its usefulness as time goes by. Way back in your life, God placed you upon the wheel. Listen to me now. And for all these years, God has sought to make you right. But I don't know why. Only God knows. And you know there has become a flaw and a break. You are a piece of broken pottery today. Your life is marred. Your ideals broken. All around you lie the littered pieces of the man or woman you might have been. I might have been. I could have been this if I didn't get pregnant. I could have been this if I didn't quit out of school. I could have been this if I didn't blow out my knee. I could have been this if I studied harder. I could have been this if I moved. I could have, and we look at our lives of what we could have been, marred and carrying this burden of what we could have been. This life of wasted talent and wasted potential, and how I sit looking back of this time, and I am here to tell you that God has had you on the wheel for many years trying to get you right. Trying to get you straight. But what shall you do now? God has placed you where He has for a high purpose. Don't think that God has not placed you where He has placed you for any other reason than a high purpose. But you have missed the mark. You have missed the mark. And you know it. I'm not preaching condemnation. I am bringing healing. Amen. This is a message of healing. Why? Because let's deal with it and get ourselves right for the Master's use. Yes. Should God take another man or another woman and give them the wealth, the position, the place that He has for you? Will you give up on that promise so easily? Will you let go of those things that God has spoken to you and promised you so easily because you can't see it in your life anymore? Should He just take it and give it to somebody else? Will He allow disappointment? Will you allow disappointment to rule over your life because of failure? Should God call another church to do what He has called us to do? Does God need to raise up another church plant because we're not doing and being who God has called us to be? Should He? Do we throw in the towel and give up? I say, not yet. Not yet. He could take another piece of clay and make it for His vessel, for His use, but that's not what His plan is. His plan isn't another lump of clay. His plan is this lump of clay. And until we understand and allow the potter to have his way, He wants you and you alone and me for His work. He has not given up on us. We should not give up on Him. Joseph, a young man full of promise, a visionary and a dreamer, loved by his father Jacob more than any other son, was looked at, and his father would award him with all these things. And one day his father gave him this coat, this beautiful coat, a royal robe, dignified, displaying all the beautiful colors and all the beautiful treasures that his father had accumulated over time, from generation to generation, from what Abraham passed to Isaac and what Isaac now passed to Jacob. He envisioned and put into this coat and laid it on his son's shoulders. And as the son saw it, the brothers around him said, enough is enough. We're tired of who this kid is and what he thinks. And Joseph became a little punk in his little attitude. Dad, I had a dream, and all of you are going to one day bow down and worship me. And his father turned to him and said, don't you talk like that, boy. I'm still the father and I'm still alive. The brothers say, listen, I know he's Dad's favorite, but he's tripping, right? I just can't deal with him anymore. And they devise a plan. And they're going to take him. They figure they're going to kill him. But one of the brothers intervenes and says, no. Don't kill him. Let's sell him into slavery. And a group of traders come in for 30 pieces of silver. They trade him. And he goes and he winds himself from the land of Canaan into the land of Egypt, not realizing how he gets there. And this young man, Joseph, ends up a slave to a man named Potiphar. And he rose up the ranks, and maybe he got a little cocky again. You know, I'm Potiphar's second-hand man. And he still loved God and worshiped God. There came an issue with Potiphar's wife because she was checking him out. She was like, I'm about to get me some Joseph. She walked in on him, and he was like, nah, I can't do that. You're my master's wife. And she was like, what happens in the palace stays in the palace. And he says, no, and he runs out. And as he runs out, he leaves his clothes. Kind of always wondered, though, to me, how his clothes kind of already just fell off. I've always wondered that. Because if I'm running, my pants ain't falling down. Unless they were already on there. I've always just wondered that. I don't know if you've ever wondered that, but how me running away from somebody means that I run away and lose my clothes. Without me getting beat down and stripped down. You understand? Maybe, just maybe, and it's not in the scripture. What I am saying right now is not in the Bible. But maybe, just maybe, you heard the music on. She came out, and she looked a little good, and maybe, just maybe, he said, should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? And conviction got the best of him and said, I don't know what I'm doing here. I need to be gone. And left, and it was a close call. I don't know if you've ever had those close calls, but when you walked away, you said, Lord, thank you, because I could have messed up. But the grace of God go, you just got me out just in time. You got me out of that relationship just in time. You got me out of that deal just in time. You did that just in time. As we were about to buy a house, I prayed and I said, Lord, we can afford this mortgage. But if there were ever to be a change in the course of our income, the course of our direction, I couldn't feel comfortable asking a church to pay that much of a salary for me so that I can have a house. Couldn't. I just couldn't. I said, but Lord, I know my wife has her heart on it. You have to speak to her. But can I tell you that the Lord spoke to her and got us out just in time? Were there some losses on our part? Yes, because lust led us in. But the hand of God brought us out just in time. Because could you imagine where we would be with a $3,500 a month mortgage in this economy, on this salary? Where we would be? We would have lost it. And the loss of not having it, loss of having to give it up would have been greater than never possessing it in the first place. And oh, Pastor, don't you have faith? Yes, we could have trusted God, but we also listened to the voice of God. And the voice of God never, ever supersedes my own desires. My lusts and my appetite can lead me to a place where I am asking God to provide for something that He never intended for you to have. That you can be in a place that you never intended to be, but you went a direction that God never intended you to go. And now you want Him to bail you out. You hear me? This is deep inside of me today. Because I want each and every one of you to walk out of here saying that I might have been broken coming in, but God is making me going out. That coming in, I came in one way, but I'm leaving another way. And I'm walking out a new man, a new woman. I have destiny and I have hope again. I can breathe again. I can dream again. I can see again. My days have not passed me. I don't care if you're 25 or 65. Your days have not passed you. God still has purpose for your life. I don't care if you're broke, flat, broke, dirt poor, or filthy rich. He has not passed you by. He has not left you to wither away. He has brought you this far for a purpose and for a plan. And I am here to tell you today that God has not. But here Joseph ends up in prison for 13 years. And you know what I believe God brought him to that prison for 13 years to deal with? Because Joseph was broken. How do you say he was broken? He was a piece of clay. And God had to mold forgiveness into him. Because the only way he'd be able to be out was for him to have a forgiving heart so that his brothers could come and find provision in the land. And Joseph, the way he was, if he was still a parrot, arrogance almost did get the best of him if you read the story, because he started to get a little with his brothers, and then he said, whoa, 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 Benjamin? There's another one? I have a whole brother? You see, I can act this way because there were half-brothers. You see, my dad married 2 women. That was part of the story I didn't tell you. And 10 brothers came from one wife, Leah. But 2 brothers came from another mother. And in this other mother, the father was crazy about. And he said, wait a minute, before Mama died, I got a whole other brother? And his heart softened up. He said, how can I turn someone that didn't do anything against me and make them pay for the sins of everyone else? And some of you have walked into this church, into this place, carrying the guilt and the sins and the anger of what others have done to you, and have directed it at God, at your pastors, at the people in this church, at people, at friends, and they've never done anything to you except want to love you and want the best for you. God has never hurt you. God never did anything to you. But you've allowed people and their hurts and their pains for you to point the finger at God and say, God, it's all your fault. We look at God. We say, Lord, here we are. And as His hand is passing through this audience to find you, that broken pieces of your life, your marred, spoiled ideal, may be made over and over again. Maybe there's a preacher, a teacher, a businessman. From Wall Street to Main Street, from singer to student, God is reaching for you right now, right where you are. The hand of God is desiring to lay hold of the broken pieces of your life and remake you. What began at the cross, He desires to complete in our lives today, if we